Welcome back to the 5% Club. I'm Shayla King, a former C-suite executive turned business and life coach. And this is the podcast for leaders who want it all. The promotions, the paychecks, and luxurious amounts of time for the things that matter most. Each week, I'm going to teach you from my performance and happiness formula what it takes to rise to the top without burnout and overwhelm. Work less, make more, and design a life you love. That's what we do in the 5% Club. Let's go. Welcome back to the 5% Club. I'm your favorite performance and happiness coach, Shayla King. And in today's episode, I'm actually sharing an episode that I recorded with my friend and fellow coach, Jess DeMarcheris. Now, Jess is a total baddie. She lives a life that is authentic and full, and she's just full of life and deep in her craft. So she actually runs a program called the Art and Skill of Coaching, where she coaches coaches to be more effective. And she has a background as a licensed therapist and as a certified coach. And so when you combine those together, she is just the absolute best at helping coaches hone their craft. In this episode on her podcast, we talked about work-life balance. What does it actually mean for a working mom to find balance? And how do we let go of our expectations that so many other people have for us? You don't even have to be a working mom to appreciate this episode, because we talked about how people without kids and how men also face this desire for everybody else to tell us what our life should look like, tell us how we should spend our time, what we should be working on, and how we do not have to opt into those expectations. We don't have to. It's a fire episode. You guys are going to enjoy it, and we will go deep into not just the life strategy of somebody who can love their whole freaking life, but also the tactics. Like, how do you really clean your life up? How do you really do less? And so you're going to get it all in this episode. Enjoy.
Welcome back to the Art and Skill of Coaching podcast, where I teach you how to coach. If you are a woman or just person in general who refuses to settle, then this is for you. I'm shaking things up and bringing on a colleague today. Her name is Shayla King. She is, in my opinion, a living, breathing example of having it all. She is a former C-suite leader turned life coach and has found a way to truly balance this equally fulfilling personal and professional life. And I've had a backseat view of watching her do this inside of a mastermind we were a part of, which we'll talk about today as well. But Shayla helps corporate leaders design careers and lives that they love. And I'm really excited for her to add some value to the podcast today. But just a little bit of background before we jump in. She shared a little bit of her story with me, and it's really amazing to kind of hear her journey from being a waitress to being a chief people officer. So before launching her coaching practice, she led training and development at a company, and then she later became chief people officer for another company and ended up leading a $7 billion division. And so, as you can see, her corporate journey is really impressive. And she started off as a waitress and worked her way all the way up, giving her a really unique and grounded and relatable approach to leadership. So I think this conversation today is going to add real value to those of you that are struggling to create balance, whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, or you're just a woman or person trying to thrive in today's super demanding world. So welcome, Shayla. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Awesome, Jess. It's going to be fun. I'm really excited about the idea that we're going to talk about how you actually can have it all.
I think that that's the reason I wanted to bring you on, because you just refuse to accept these narratives. And one of these narratives that I know I've heard as a woman is that you can't have it all. You're going to have to choose between a good marriage or a good career, being a mom or being fit or being successful or being not able to hit your goals. And I just am like, F that. I don't like that. Even though you keep screaming it from the rooftops, I'm not going to listen. So I did want to start with why I specifically wanted to bring you on, besides obviously your impressive bio. Like I talked about before, we were in a business mastermind together, and I specifically remember watching you get coached. And I was like, one, I want to be friends with her. And two, I kept seeing you in the peer coaching spaces. And I was like, I'm so glad that we keep getting linked up, because I was really watching you in real time refuse to accept this narrative of your business or your life this or that, an hour later, big or small. You were always sharing these simultaneous big projects and life events. And it was clear that you were refusing to not have fun in the process and accept what people were telling you. And I just really love that about you. I think you embody this concept of balance and capacity. And that's why I was excited to have this conversation with you.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's critical because burnout coaches will be like, you can achieve your dreams without burnout. And when I hear the message, it basically sounds like you can achieve your dreams without it sucking. And I'm like, no, no, no. We're going to achieve our dreams while having the time of our lives, right? This is about it being epic. And so I think that's what you and I have had previous conversations about is like, how do you enjoy the process and the ride, not just when you arrive? And we're not trying to get to it doesn't suck. That is not the goal, right? The goal is extraordinary.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that that's a really interesting perspective that I don't think is being talked about. It's like work hard, grind it out, struggle to hit your goals, right? And that is one way to do it, but it's not the only way.
But why?
hmm What do you
Like,
think?
I think one of the things that's important is when people are grinding just to get to the top and they're like, you have to suffer to get there. I think a lot of that comes from a need to prove, a need to be validated, a need to achieve because then I'm worth it. And no, 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 I'm going to accomplish all of that, but how I want to, and I'm going to enjoy the process. And so, this idea that inherently like suffer and hustle is part of it, no, it's not. It's like
Mm,
a coping mechanism that we actually use, right? We're like, I don't know if I'm going to be good enough with just my actions. And so, what I do know is I can work harder, I can work longer. And it's kind of like because I'm not settled in my heart that it's already good enough or I'm already good enough. And
mhm.
once I know I am, then I get to have these like intellectually honest conversations about what adds value, what doesn't, and what can I cut out instead of
Yeah.
just like add more pressure, add more hours.
And that's interesting too, because I think when people just keep doing the same thing, just more of it with more
Yeah.
intensity, frequency, or duration,
Yeah.
short term, yes, you'll get more results because more input equals more output, but it's not sustainable, right?
It's not
Um,
sustainable, but also I'd argue it's not as effective. So,
yeah.
like in our space, we hear all the time that yes, you can end up having this glorious life where you work 4 days a week and have this business, but not at the beginning. At the beginning, you have to put your hours in, you have to go through the reps. No, you don't, right?
Mm,
I have built my business in 25 to 30 hours a week because I started with like my life design and my life vision and what I want out of that, right? And so when people say, well, the person that is working 55 hours and you're working 30, they're going to beat you. They're going to get more. I don't even agree with that. I
mm,
don't think you even have to say, yeah, you're right. And I'm settling for that because I want this time and I want my life. No, no, no. I put my brain to work for me, right?
yeah.
And so I firmly believe I get more done in a week than most people do in a month. And it's the right actions, right? So I put my brain to work all the time on what should I be working on? How can I get the most out of this time? How can I deliver the highest level work that adds the most value? And I break it down like into the only categories that matter. Like, is this revenue generating or does it serve my clients and get them faster results?
Yeah. And I feel like we're going to talk about this a lot. I have some very specific questions for
Yeah.
you because I want to make sure that people can walk away with this episode with tangible tools. That's something that we focus on inside of the Art and
Yeah.
Skill of Coaching anyway. We teach theory and tangible tools because I think people listen to a lot of information. There's so much noise out there and there's these beautiful, lofty concepts, but people don't know how to apply them. So I'm glad that you're
Yeah.
already going in that direction because we are going to go there. But
I
I'm
think it's
listening.
one of the reasons I was really attracted to you. So, like, when we were in those sessions together, you said, like, "I heard you speak and I want to be friends." I was same. I was like, "Oh my god, it's a woman who is standing in her power, who is already successful and is willing to ask questions, be vulnerable, be courageous to learn even more." Right? And I think of you as a badass. And in the best way, right? I'm like, "She's a baddie." Because of your confidence and because of how much you're like, "No, this is me." And we've talked about this a little bit before that sometimes people think that to be successful, you have to be like this little like polished version and you have to be a very narrow window of what it looks like. And I think, we both have different backgrounds than most. And you continually live your authentic self and say, as a Latina, as somebody with culture, I have so much to offer in this space, and I'm the best teacher for you, and I can help you rise. I don't have to be like, okay, I got to choose my words carefully. I was going to say formal and a nerd.
I do
But
call
I mean,
myself a closet nerd, but
all right, same, because we both love learning so much, right? But it can come with personality. Brilliance can come with personality. And I just saw you shining and not hiding that. And I saw how intelligent you were and how real you were at the same time. And I love that. So I'm excited that we're going to not just talk about theory of it can all happen, but how. And I think
yes.
we both are like, let's get real though, but how?
Yeah. Before we get there, let's like peel back a little bit because I assume, at least this is a assumption, it wasn't always like that. So I'm curious, like coming from a corporate space where I think that is the rhetoric, like that
Yeah.
is the quote unquote path to success, the path to being promoted. Like what beliefs about success and
Yeah.
productivity, especially as a woman in those leadership roles, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
did you have to consciously unlearn first?
Yeah. So as a woman, let's start there. As a woman, I knew that none of my male peers had the responsibilities that I did at home.
Preach.
Right? And
Yeah.
I knew that I had to not let that show. So that meant I had to volunteer for everything. I had to stay late for everything. I could never let being a mom get in the way, or they're like, see, I told you she can't do it. And there's studies around this, right? That if a woman leaves the workplace to take care of her kids, that it negatively affects her performance and her pay. But if a man does, it's actually honored. It's like, what a great dad.
Right.
Right? And so the way that I framed it is I'm competing with these men who have stay-at-home wives that take care of not only, like, children, but, like, like, getting your suit dry cleaned, right? Like, having the meal ready, and I had none of that, right? And so I remember thinking, if I'm gonna compete like them, I can't have any excuses. And so that fed some good things and some bad things. I mean, I did set up resources for myself at a very young age. And so when my girls were really little, we had grandparents around. We later had no support system in a new city. But the grandparents couldn't be the only thing I relied on because sometimes they were sick. Sometimes they were unavailable. So I always had nannies and backups and backups and backups and backups. And so I think that was definitely part of it, was that I had to show up with zero excuses, right? I could never be not counted on. I thought I had to outwork everyone. I always said, like, I don't know if you've ever heard Will Smith talk about this, but he goes, "If anybody gets on a treadmill," have you seen this?
Yes, I'm going to die
"Before
before they
I
die
get
me.
off."
Yeah.
Basically, if somebody gets on the treadmill after him, he cannot leave until they leave, right? To show that you have that work ethic. And my dad taught me a lot of really good work ethic, but it was always ingrained that our secret sauce was that we work harder than everybody else. And so I overused that. Some other thoughts. I thought I was important when people needed me.
Mm,
God, I thrived on that one for a long time. If somebody would call me at night and I could fix something quickly, I was like, yeah, because I'm that good. I'm that important. I didn't get the idea that if I was really a good leader, I would have empowered them to be able to handle it without me. But I kept creating systems that created that because it made me feel good.
yeah.
I thought saying no was career suicide.
I think you need to say that one again.
I thought saying no was career suicide. And we talk about like a career limiting move, a CLM. And not volunteering, I thought, was that.
Mm,
I also put so much pressure that, like, every meeting and presentation, if I didn't knock it out of the park, that was the CLM.
yeah.
And I missed my chance now. Like, it's like FOMO for adults in the workplace. I think it happens all the time. Up, it's over. I messed it up. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, it just wasn't an abundant mindset. Of course, I'm
Yeah.
going to have other opportunities. I
It
didn't think
feels
that.
so, like, limiting where it's like, I have no room for error almost.
None.
Yeah, and like you said that to nerd out for a second, like psychologically speaking, when that's the thought that's dominating the brain, I have no room for error. I need to nail this. It puts you into the part of your brain where you actually don't make great decisions. You aren't resourceful, you aren't creative, you aren't present, you aren't connecting and attuned to other people in your environment. It's making you less productive and effective.
That is brilliant. And I love that you brought it from the psychology point of view because it does. It puts us into survival mode and it focuses all of our attention on ourselves.
Mhm.
Not about what improves the business. It's how will they think of me? What will happen to me? What if I'm not good enough? Instead of what's the best decision for the business. And
Mhm.
so I honestly think if more companies would bring us in to teach self esteem, that then people would make better decisions for the company. They'd stop centering themselves. They would relax. They would
Yeah.
think more. They wouldn't be in that survival brain, right? And then they would make better forward-looking decisions.
Another thing you said that I think is important for people listening to this podcast is that you had systems in place early on to support you so that you could perform, right? And I think, guilty confession, I just paid to get my house cleaned for the very first time in my entire life
Oh
this
my
week.
god, I can't believe we haven't talked about that before.
Laughed, 2 things happened. Number 1, I felt like such a blessing to be able to support this woman and her family. And number 2, I just realized in my head how much work I got done in those 4 hours, and it only cost me $200.
Yeah,
And I have this thought where it's like, if I can do it all, I should.
right.
And so I love that you brought up the little piece about having systems and having supports and having nannies and asking for help so that you could really leverage your impact and the value you had for other people.
Yeah, I wanna go into that more, a lot more. I think it's really, really important. So, first of all, I think everyone should know, especially women, that you have to protect the asset and you are the asset.
Mm. Mhm.
My coach uses that word and I love it. And the way that I like to think about it is so many women are the first women breadwinners in their family's lineage. This is the generation where we have women that are the primary breadwinner for the first time ever in history.
Yes.
And also, they still have the majority of responsibility at home. And so they want us to work like we don't have kids and mother like we don't have a job.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to first realize it's ludicrous. It's ludicrous,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not going to opt into those expectations, even though everyone in my life has them for me.
Yeah, I love that you just said that specifically in that way. I am not going to opt in. One, you have choice. Two, into those expectations. They're expectations. They're not realistic. They're not necessary. They're not even quote unquote better. I just love that phrasing. And I think that could be a little mantra for anyone listening. I choose not to opt into those expectations.
Yeah.
And let's add in the adjective you said ludicrous expectations.
It's absolutely ludicrous.
Hmm. What are some of the challenges that you feel like you've faced when there is a conflict? Like, how do you
Yeah.
decide what gets prioritized or what your non negotiables are, what you protect and why? Like, how did you get to that place? Because I can imagine people listening to this and being like, well, and then insert quote unquote circumstance or
Yeah,
excuse,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So you'll build over time. I just want to start with a kind of like empathy, things that feel like you absolutely don't have a choice in. I'll teach you how you do. And then, like, over time, you'll feel more comfortable with it. But now I literally don't have to do anything in my life I don't want to do. Anything. I don't have to pay taxes. I don't have to feed my kids. I don't have to be a mom. Like, I mean, those are terrible things, right? But once you change it and I say, no, I do it because I want to, it feels completely differently. But I take the requirement off to start with so that you can be opting in instead of opting out. Because if you take the default and you got to opt out, that's a lot of energy, right? So let's opt in instead.
Hmm.
So I work with my clients first on creating a life vision. And so instead of your career plan, it's your whole life. And so as part of that, we create what your personal values are. We create what your money and time values are, where you actually want to spend your time and your money. And we create this vision blueprint. It also includes like what's extraordinary about each one of your roles in your life. So what's extraordinary is your role as a mom. What's extraordinary is with your role as a business leader or a coach, right? And so you decide what extraordinary looks like, and then you have this blueprint for what your extraordinary life looks like. We now get to use that as our litmus. It even includes a section that I love that's about like who are the people in your life that absolutely adore you. And it's usually 1 to 3 people
Hmm.
that under every circumstance, all they want is for you to thrive. And it's a very small list. And so I think of those people, if you think of like a bullseye, if you're playing darts, those are the red dot in the middle. And so we spend time with people that are 5 layers out, and we take on their expectations and we do them the favor and we do the activity and they're nowhere near our bullseye. And so you're going to do things for yourself first and then for the bullseye. And we're gonna get very clear distinctions that I don't owe anyone else, right?
Yes. Yes. I love that little phrase. I don't owe anything to these people. And I
Yeah.
think, like you said, just pausing and asking yourself, where is my time and energy and focus and resources going? And is it going towards my most valuable asset, which is me, the people that are closest and most important to me, my family, my friends, my direct reports? Or am I out here performing and accommodating and appeasing this person that I see every 6 months for coffee that just wastes 2 hours picking my brain?
So they don't think I'm a bad person,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let them.
Let
What
them.
I what you will believe about me is that I'm a happy person, I guarantee you that. You can't look at my life and not say I don't fucking love it.
I think you do, genuinely. Like,
I
I've witnessed
genuinely
you.
do. I'll give you kind of a hot take on how far you can go with this concept, and this one I know I'll get some heat for, but that's okay. I don't volunteer at my kids' school. I used to do 1 field trip a year because I enjoyed that. So for each kid, I do 1 field trip a year. But recently, my daughter's basketball team has mandatory volunteering, which is so freaking funny, right? They're like, "Choose your slot," and your slot is to either run the game board, like, clock. I don't know basketball, I don't know these things, so I don't know how to I don't get it. I don't they have,
Mhm,
like, numbers. I don't even understand. And so, obviously, I can't do that, and the other one is concessions. Could I do it? Yes. Am I going to? No. I'm not feeling guilty about it at all. And I heard some parents talking shit on another parent the other day. They were like, "Yeah, we haven't even seen her yet. She hasn't even signed up." And let me tell you, that is the moment where it's like, "Ugh, I'm not doing my part. I'm failing. If I was a good mom, I'd do this. If I cared about my kids in the school, I would do it." And the other moms will come for you, right? They're like, "These systems don't work without it. And don't you care about the kids?" And everyone has to do their part. There's so much like deeply angered guilt they want to put on you.
yeah, and judgment.
So much judgment. And guess what? I'm not taking it.
I'm not taking it.
I'm not taking it. 2 issues I have with it. One is why is it a volunteer-based system? If we think about what that actually means, it means we're using free labor of women,
Mm,
right? Like some dads will volunteer, sure. These things are 85% ran by women, and we kind of create these systems in society where like now you have to stay home because there's so much to do. Because we're not paying for labor for things because we're expecting you to volunteer and saying it's for the children.
mhm.
Well, like I came from a poor school. I live in a very affluent area. When they're like, "We have to have these dollars for the kids or they'll suffer."
Well, that perspective you're bringing in from your personal experience where it's like, if we don't have it all, we still can make it work versus it needs to be this way, and here's the expectation and the way that we've always done it, and even though we have moms who are out here running companies, we still expect you to volunteer for the basketball league?
Yeah, you owe me your suffering,
Mm.
right? Because I can't do that and enjoy my life, but I owe them that so that they're like, "We're all in this together. We're all suffering and having miserable, exhausted lives together."
Well, it goes back to that choice where it's like, if you want to, because you want to be there and you want to be present and you want to help and you have the time, you have the resources, and that's in alignment with your values and that's what you choose. High five, sister. Love it for you. I appreciate you. My daughter benefits. And like, if that's not, then what you're saying is full permission to not do it.
100%, that's it. Like, I love it if somebody gets joy from it and wants to do it. But I also don't wanna feel grateful that they do it, like they're doing it on my behalf. I just want the
Mm.
system to change to where it runs without volunteers, and then if somebody wants to give their time, they can enjoy it, they can add additional value, but it's not a requirement. Because as soon as we make it a requirement, then it is this judgment of, "Are you a good person or are you not?"
Yeah, I think the word requirement's interesting. It's funny, I had this mantra back in 2020, very similar to what you said. I actually don't have to do anything. I don't have to get up and go to work. I don't have to brush my teeth. I don't have to work out. I don't have to walk my dog. I don't have to call my mom. I actually technically don't have to do anything. And
Right?
so that was a weird thought to have, but it was simultaneously surprisingly
Freeing.
liberating? Yeah,
Yeah,
where I was like,
yeah.
"Wait a second, hold on. I literally, if I wanted to, do not have to go to work today."
Mhm.
And in my mind, because of these rigid standards and expectations and rules that I had for myself, that I adopted from people. I wanna give a little tip here that usually these rules are outdated. They're usually not even yours. They're sometimes in conflict with your values. And so, what I would encourage you to ask is if there's an internal discord, if there's a rub, if it is not sustainable, ask yourself, where did this rule come from? Because normally it comes from the majority, it comes from people close to you, or it comes from people that you perceive with power. And it's your choice to analyze that and say, do I choose to live by this rule? Do I want to make decisions in alignment with these expectations? And at the end of the day, you do not.
And so often it disproportionately affects women negatively.
Yeah.
And that's the freedom that I want to give because if somebody wants to stay home, I love it. If somebody wants to be the classroom mom, I love it. But I want you to do it because it brings you joy and you like what you get out of it, not because you feel like you're supposed to.
Yeah. I have one of my coaches, I have a couple coaches, a business coach, a life coach, I have a therapist, all the things all the time, right? Committed to the work. My individual coach, I hire her because she's simply an expander for me. She has a nanny, she has a housekeeper, she goes on date nights every week with her husband, she works out every single day, she goes shopping in the middle of the day, she takes baths. And I'm not even saying that that's what I want for myself, but what she does for
Possibility.
me is she gives me permission to be a woman, not just a wife, not just a mother, not just an entrepreneur. She gives me permission to decide what I want to do and literally just let go of all the other quote unquote rules that people have for you.
Yeah, I love it. And I hope this podcast is really that invitation to the possibility.
Yeah. So let's go into the tangible piece for a
Okay.
second. Like, what does balance actually even look like for you? Like, is there certain task or decisions or a schedule, like anything that would really help women being like, I hear you. This is me. Like,
Hmm.
I feel this. And Shayla, how do I
Yeah.
do it?
Yeah. So let me just tell you some of the things that I outsource. Maybe that's a good way
Ooh,
to
yes.
kind of get going. And then I'll tell you kind of how I arrange my time. And now nobody needs to arrange their time like me at all. I just think it's another example, like you said, of what's possible. And just circling back on the last point that you made, the other thought that I keep reminding myself is I can't do that and have the life that I've designed. So if I start sliding into those activities you want from me, then I'm going to start sliding into what 95% of females feel, which is overwhelmed, survival mode, sick, exhausted. And I am refusing to let myself go there, not just for my own happiness, which is perfectly worth it itself,
Mhm.
but also I'm so much better of a mother when I'm happy. And when I'm busy and overworked and stretched thin, I'm snippy and I'm rude and I'm not kind and we don't have good open conversations and we don't connect at the same level. So I think it's really cool too to look at it as I'm doing it to be a better mom. I'm saying no and not doing the volunteering to be a better mom.
Yeah. It's like, a byproduct of the decision, right? A lot of people
Yeah.
initially feel guilty by making the decision saying, "No, I'm bad, I'm gonna get judged," versus this byproduct that has true value of, "Wow, I protected my time," or, "Wow, I gave myself space to regulate before my kids came home. Wow, I asked for help and support so that I could focus on things that actually bring me joy." And the byproduct of that is being more present, being more healthy, being more happy, and I think energy is contagious. I think joy is contagious. And I also think negativity is contagious. And so,
Yeah.
not just what are you doing, but how are you showing up to those activities and relationships? I love that you brought that up where it's like, it's uncomfortable in the beginning, but why is it worth it?
Yeah. And I want everybody to understand the opportunity cost. When you say yes, what are you saying no to? Maybe you're saying no to the one downtime that you were going to have that week for yourself that was going to recharge you. Maybe you're saying no to having a date night with your husband. Maybe you're saying no to doing something with your other kid, right? We have to understand that when we say yes, because we're trying to people please or be good, that we're saying no to so much more.
The other thing I want to throw out there before we keep moving into the tangible piece, I'm thinking about actually some of the people that listen to this podcast. And I know that this conversation unintentionally might have sounded a little binary where it's like be an entrepreneur and a mom, be a working mom. But I also think that these concepts can be applicable to any woman. If you decide not to have children and run companies, awesome. If you decide to be in a non-traditional relationship, awesome. If you decide to live abroad, awesome. If you decide to I have a client right now that is a nomad and just lives in like a hippie van and just makes enough money to get to the next destination. Like, awesome. Like, full permission to release these expectations and these quote unquote rules and do it your way. I don't think society has caught up to the progression of
Yeah.
women in terms of our mindset, our education, our resources, our ability. And here is again that permission slip to kind of do it your way.
Yeah, I mean, Jess, that's phenomenal. And I coach men too. And I remember a female client who didn't have kids who said, she had elder care and nobody knew about it. But at work, they're always like, well, you don't have kids. So I'll give you 9 more projects. So, what I think it's important for people to know, it does not matter your lifestyle. The world will always ask more of you than what's reasonable, right? Like you said, you can have all these different lanes and you will always feel pressure to meet somebody else's expectation, and they will always tell you you're doing it wrong if you don't follow their playbook. And so
Mhm.
I love this as that permission slip. No matter who you are or what your situation is, there's this pressure,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everyone will fill up your time and
Oh,
take all your emotional energy too.
they will. I always tell people you will keep getting what you tolerate. And so, what are you tolerating and why? And can we unpack that? And then the other piece, too, is I want to be mindful that people aren't listening to this podcast episode and thinking, okay, I need to do it better. Let me get a time management system. Let me put
Yeah.
in a self care thing every single week. Let me put in a date night. And then
Yeah.
you just take your already full plate and make it fuller. So, like,
Yeah.
what does balance actually look like?
Yeah. Let's go into it. I'll tell you what I edit out of my life too. We'll talk
Mhm.
about how I resource, how we get rid of stuff. And that's
Mhm.
always my first step with clients is in the first month we do add nothing. You're not allowed to volunteer for anything. And if they ask you to do something, you still don't say yes until we have a conversation, we talk through if it makes sense, if it actually is a career limiting move or if you're scared, etc. Right? So, yes, we're getting less first and then you get to decide what you want to add back in. So, in my business, I have an assistant. I've had one way before most people would have, like before the revenue matched what people think. In my home, I have house cleaners, I have repairmen, even simple stuff that my husband can do. I call a repairman because he's busy working and traveling as well, and we value his time when he's home. This is one of my favorite things. I have someone come once a week. She cooks us a beautiful meal. She does meal prep, and then she drives one of my kids for me. So then I know every Wednesday night I get a beautiful home cooked meal and I don't have to drive any kids on Wednesdays.
Mm,
I do like things for ease, like TSA pre-check, clear, global entry. If you can make it easier, simpler, save me time, I am paying you.
yes.
Groceries are always delivered online. I don't know why I'd go in. I also don't price check or look for deals. Now, people can think that's financially irresponsible, but I truly believe I'm great at making money. And so I'm gonna spend my time making money instead of trying to save $3 here or $4 here. And so I really save my time with decision making accordingly.
Yeah, yeah, and avoid that decision fatigue. So 2 things that
Yeah.
you're saying that I really love is 1, the very first step to creating a quote unquote more balanced life is actually auditing your life and taking things off.
Yeah.
Versus putting things in. I think that that is gonna help so many people. And then the second thing you said is managing the decision fatigue. Like, where can we simplify? Where can we systemize? Where can we delegate? What can we delete? I think that
Yeah.
that alone, if you're saving energy every single day with these simple decisions, and then number 2, getting rid of things that are just constant drains that don't add value, like, just that alone.
I keep a lot of consistency. We have the same food in our house. Right? Meals. People I've been seeing all these things about like, oh my God, every day are they gonna want a new dinner? Do I have to make a new dinner plan for a new dinner? And first of all, it's always that it's all on the woman, right? But second of all, like somebody thinks you have to be Betty Crocker, and I have never taken that on. So I moved to Chicago. I was a single mom for 9 years. We knew no one in the state.
Mm,
Right? So talk about like not having a support system. There was no dad to call, no grandparents to call, no anybody to tag in ever. And so I did end up getting an au pair as part of my strategy to be able to work, right? And the dinners that I would have back then, all like very frequently, is a rotisserie chicken, pre-cooked from the grocery store, and pre-cut up vegetable tray. Throw it on the table, dinner is served.
yes.
It's healthier than most of the things that people make.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that. I talk about this a lot. A lot of people make fun of me. A running joke in my friend group is, "Oh, if it's not on the Google Calendar, Jess isn't going to be there." But they make fun of how regimented my life is, but that
Mm.
is what allows me to be so creative and get more done than most people, even though it's not my baseline. Like personality wise, whenever I
Yeah.
do any of those assessments, people are like, "You're an entrepreneur? That makes no sense." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm an anomaly. I get it. It's been my whole life." Right. But like little simple things, like you said, I meal prep the same exact things every single week, even down to like my nail color. It's the same exact nail color. I go to the nail tech. I don't spend time thinking, what do I want this week? I don't research it. I wear the same 3 colors. I buy no patterns. I go to the same stores. I try to
Yeah.
make sure that I can be as efficient as possible and not waste time and energy on things that don't matter.
And then use your creativity in the areas that give you back fulfillment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's just about choosing and simplifying everywhere you can. So the other thing that we talk about is like, what is the bottleneck in your life? And when
Mm,
my kids were little, my biggest bottleneck used to be that my daughter couldn't get herself dressed in the morning. She would be so overwhelmed, she couldn't do it. And there would be tears every morning. It would make us late. It was like so exhausting. And yet, because I'm stubborn, I kept saying, her little sister gets herself dressed. Why can't she? She should be able to. And so I had to just ask myself, but she's not, and it's hurting my life. So why wouldn't I find a fix for that? Like it's so
yeah.
logical when you take a step back, but we just live in the same pain over and over and over again without finding a solution, right? And so I ended up just figuring out, oh, well, if on Sunday night I plan 5 outfits with her ahead of time, then we take rid of that entire bottleneck. So just looking at your life and saying, like, what is one thing in the morning and one thing at work and one thing in the evening that causes me the most
Mm.
pain that if I fixed, I would get infinite relief.
There's this great book, The One Thing,
Yeah.
and is it Gary Keller? I'm blanking on his name right now, but, he has this entire book on this concept of, like, if you got one thing done today, if you started doing one thing or stopped doing one thing, it would change everything, and I've applied that concept to my financial life, to my fitness, to my business, to my relationships, and it is so helpful. Um, I wanna kind of bring this to coaches just for a second because I know
Yeah.
that they listen. So, like you said, starting a business can be overwhelming, and especially in the beginning when you're a
Mhm.
solopreneur and you're literally not only learning how to coach clients, but you're learning how to market, you're learning how to sell, you're learning
Yeah.
how to create email sequences. It's a big learning curve breaking
It
into this industry because there is no standardized training, there is no supervision or internship available. It really is like birth by fire.
Yeah.
So for those coaches listening who are like, okay, I want to start this business, but I don't want to sacrifice my life to
Yeah.
do so, like what would you say to them? What are some mistakes you see or things that you wish you would have done differently or just advice you would give?
Yeah, I love it. So I mostly coach corporate leaders. I don't coach entrepreneurs like you do and other coaches. But I did do a podcast recently on some of the lessons learned that I had when I first became a coach. And I think it's really applicable to what we're talking about today because I struggled with getting done really administrative things. And so what you'll learn when you're that solopreneur is that you think you're going to be on Zoom calls or in person coaching people. And what you're actually doing is figuring out why your email system won't connect to your website, it won't connect to a form, and there's some DNSF number that you're supposed to put somewhere. And like none of it ever works. And it takes, 10 times as long as you think it should.
Hmm.
Every day I would want to flip tables and then go quit and walk out of my office, say, forget it, I'll come back to it tomorrow. And so one of the skill sets that really helped me is I had to realize that's where I was getting in my own way. And then I had to come up with a new thought about it. So for that one, I ended up doing something like the mundane is how I create the business, right? Because I hate detailed admin work. But I had to come up with something that let me get through it and push through it. And it will always take longer than I think it will, and I will always finish it. And
Hmm.
to coach myself, just like you'd coach a child, right? On like, how do you get through this? So, one, I think figure out where you're getting in your own way of stopping work because that will be part of it, right? And I had to figure out since I wanted this balance how to get more done in less hours. So I don't get to stop. I don't get to have emotional reasons. And the other emotional reason I see come up a lot is like something bad happens. Like, let's say that somebody was rude to you or something, you couldn't believe something happened. Then we have to go tell 5 people, you won't believe what just happened. And then he said this. And like, we want to pull people into like our unfairness. That wastes a lot of time too. So when you can decide, like, there's a ton to get done in my new business, what drives revenue, what actually helps clients get better results, how do I focus my time there? Don't get caught up into the perpetual learning versus putting yourself out there because marketing is scary. And I had to go through a lot of iterations of accepting my identity as a coach. I had become a chief people officer and I was so proud of that. And so coming in and being like, I'm a life coach, I thought everyone was going to like give me side eye. And so you have to practice that. And the only way it works is like through reps. So
Mhm.
get yourself out there. Like what I put on social media was terrible at first. And I was so worried about bombarding people. And now I don't care at all. Like I
Mhm.
know that people see 6% of what I put out there. So I'm gonna keep putting it out there to make sure the people in the back get to hear it because what I do changes lives.
Mhm.
So I want people to hear about it. And so remind yourself of the impact. And like you have a hidden secret that you've got to get out there. And so don't just sit back and do the behind the scenes work. Like get in there and do the marketing. Uh,
Yeah.
Those are some of the first things that come to mind, but I can talk about schedule in a bit too.
I mean, I just want to reiterate the two things that I think are coming through. It's one, the identity piece, and then two, the strategy. The identity piece of who am I? Why am I doing this? Who am I helping? And just staying focused on that. You can have a feeling, but don't become the feeling and let it ruin your day. Most feelings only have a shelf life of 20 seconds, actually, which is wild to think about because we will literally feel crappy for an entire week and not post, right?
Yeah.
Versus just like have the feeling and then just get back to work. And then the second part that you talked about was like strategy, like what are the income producing activities, what like is actually producing an ROI, what is the best use of my time right now. So focusing on identity and strategy I think are really important in the beginning as well, and then like you said, some scheduling tips.
Yeah. So I just thought I'd share how I divide my life because it's really simple and works well for me, but everybody can design it however they want. The point is, have you slowed down enough to design it?
Hmm.
And then are you always checking back, like, am I living it? Is this working? Do I like it? Do I want to make changes? So for me, it's real simple. It's just thirds. So I spend a third of my time on my business. I spend a third of my time with my kids, and I spend a third of my time on me. And when I say on me, I mean my health, my time with my husband, my time with my friends, if I want alone time. Like all of that is wrapped in the me time. And it's just such a beautiful balance. And you mentioned earlier, like how you talk to yourself. So I still drive my kids like 15 to 20 hours a week. And that's without the volunteering stuff, right? That's just to go to the sports. And another rule that I have is if there's a bus, you take the bus. And so I think that's another one that gets kind of like mixed in there with mom guilt. And people are like, "Yeah, but I want that time with my kids and to be a good mom." And I'm like, "Listen, maybe it works for your kids. My kids do not want to talk at 6 in the morning, and then the line is huge, and then half the ride is by myself." So like to me, that's not the optimal time. So I make them take the bus because then in the morning I can work out every morning. So I don't start my workday until 10 ever so that I always have luxurious amounts of time for any kid drop offs I need to do and to go to the gym. And before, I was never consistent with working out. And so I was like, nothing's going to get in my way. I'm going to have luxurious amounts of time for it. And so 10 a.m. lets me do that.
Yeah. That's funny you say that. I actually don't start my workday till 10 a.m. either because in the morning, I really want to make sure that my brain and body is in the right space before I start working on my business. And once my day starts, I'm off to the races. I'm working, clients, dinner with friends, catching up on FaceTimes, housework because I'm living alone. A lot of times, once my day starts, then I don't have any time for myself. And
Yeah.
I bat my eyes and it's 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, oh, time to walk my dog, take a shower, settle down. And so for me, just protecting that like 2 hours in the morning where I know no matter what, the most important asset, like you said, is taken care of.
Yeah. I love that.
Mhm. There's so many nuggets in here. There's so much good stuff. Anyone who's listening, whether you're a coach or not, I really hope that you found this conversation helpful. There's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of permission, and there's a lot of tangible tools that you can take and literal concepts and things that you could implement today. And I really would encourage you to do so. Listen, balance is something people talk about all the time. It's like a buzzword online. And what I would encourage you and challenge you to think about is not just, oh, I know this and that sounds great and good for her, right? But what can I actually take from this? What can I try? What's the one thing I can put into my schedule to create just 10% more balance? And once you get some traction and progress with that, then maybe you rinse and repeat and do it again. And if you do that every month till the end of the year, you will have a completely different life. I know we covered a lot of ground today, Shayla, but I'm curious. I'm going to give the mic to you one last time. Is there anything else that you would want to share? Any insight, any values, any tips at all?
I think the piece that I want everybody to know is I did the burnout and I had a medical thing that was really my wake up call. And my doctor told me, like, if you don't slow down, you will die. And so that's where I learned how to change it. And then I almost died again. So I was in a coma. I had heart failure at 39. And so I know what it's like to like almost not get to be my kid's mom. And what I know for certain to be true is that life is about happiness. And that when you strip away everyone else's expectations, you can actually fully enjoy your life and be such an inspiration for your family, for your children on what a joyous life looks like. And there's so much beauty in sharing that joy. And that joy doesn't come at all from like just having a simple, boring life. And it's just like, how do I retire and how do I get out of any responsibilities? No, no, no. Like you can go hard and achieve all your dreams and become somebody you're really, really proud of while saying no to all the silly stuff. And that's how you really create the joy because you're getting the impact and the life together.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. I remember when you talked about that in the mastermind, I was like, wait, when? What? That's amazing. Your recovery. And you speak to a concept that I talk about with clients often, which is listen, at the end of the day, it is better. It's harder in the beginning, but it is better long term to make a decision or make a change when you still have choice versus waiting till you have a crisis. Because when you have a crisis,
Right.
you'll be forced to make a decision with less time, less resources, and less options. And so don't wait until you get diagnosed with an autoimmune. Don't wait until your kid slams the door and says, I hate you. Don't wait until your husband brings up the divorce word. Like, where can you start making decisions today?
I love that. And the 5% Club, our saying is we're grateful and we want more.
That's so good. Well, I'm curious if people are really vibing with you and they want to learn more about you and what you got going on, where can people find you and what's going on in your world right now?
Yeah. So I run the Performance and Happiness Lab, and it is the space for corporate leaders to go. What we do is we learn everything you need to know to be a high performing and happy executive. So we cover results, relationships, rituals, and mindset. It's a container over 4 months, and you get a network of extraordinary executives that want to open doors for you, that want to level up themselves, that create that community and that place that you can brag to and grow with. And so we are actually opening up for pre enrollment tomorrow. And
Yay.
our enrollment dates are officially March 12th through 17th. We are starting March 30th for our spring cohort. And there's no better place for a corporate leader to be.
My goodness. Okay, so the timing is perfect. So you guys have some time to go find Shayla. I'll put all of her information in the show notes to stalk her, learn more about this program, click around and see if this is a good fit for you. Shayla, thank you for sharing your tools. Thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for just rifting on balance and giving women permission to do this. I really believe that this is going to be helpful for anyone listening. And like I said, if anyone wants to follow along, I'll throw all your information in the show notes. But thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to say one more thing before we go. I want to tell you why I admire you and why I think it's so amazing for people to work with you because there is a difference between coaches that want to be a good coach and coaches that want to be extraordinary. And you have such a skill set to bring people from being really good coaches to being extraordinary. And so I think anybody that wants to hone that skill set and that wants to say, I want to use real therapy background, I want to use different modalities and different tools so that I don't have a client show up that I can't help get results really fast and really deep. Like your love for the field and for getting clients real results and ending suffering and letting them become a badass that loves their whole damn life is, I think, this beautiful gift to the world. So, if anyone hasn't worked with you yet, you are absolutely the coach that I would send people to hone their craft.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That means a lot. And yeah, you're speaking to something that it's hard to articulate sometimes. Like I genuinely have a love for this practice. I think therapy and coaching saved my life. And I am my best client. And I think that anyone can be a great coach. You just have to learn it. And these tools will help you, they'll help your clients, and they'll help the industry as a whole. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. And thank you for being on today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If so, please leave us a 5-star review and hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another episode to help you master the art skill of coaching.
It's time, my friends. The Performance and Happiness Lab is now enrolling for our spring cohort. So the dates of enrollment are March 12th through 17th. And if you join us for early enrollment, you're going to get a bonus one-on-one session with me if you join before March 12th. You can go on to shaylaking.com/phlab to find all the details and to book your decision call. This is a 15-20-minute call. You'll get on the call with me and we'll talk directly. You'll share with me exactly where you are in your career, in your life, what's working really, really well, and what you want more of and what you want less of. And I'll give you honest feedback on what I think could help get you unstuck and take you to the next level. And I'll let you know, honestly, whether I think the Performance and Happiness Lab is the right room for you based on your circumstances. So get on my calendar now, shaylaking.com/phlab, before it fills up. This is the room that every woman in corporate needs to be in if they want to be a high-performing and happy executive. I'll see you there. Thanks for joining me in the 5% Club today. If you're ready to make more, work less, and design a life you love, then go to shaylaking.com and join the waitlist. You'll be the first to know when there's openings to work with me in one-on-one coaching or the Performance and Happiness Lab, my group container where you will learn to be a high-performing, highly paid executive who loves your whole life. I'll see you there.